Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So now we just want to quickly look at data validation in Excel, right? So let's say you're sharing the spreadsheet with your colleagues at work, or you're sharing the spreadsheet with the clients. So there is a certain data, a specific data, or a certain way you want your data to be punched in. For example, the date, maybe you want them to stick to a certain date format, or stick to a certain date from a certain date to another date. Like for example, let's say you have like a financial year, and then you want only to punch in data for a specific financial year. Let's say maybe your financial year start from maybe January, maybe to uh, January next year, something like that, or December or to December next year. And then so you want people to only punch in the data between those dates that you want. So you don't want anyone punching in data outside the dates that you outside your financial year. So you can do what we call the data validation. And then on these salesperson, let's say maybe you know, okay, your company has maybe five salespeople, and then only those salespeople you want their names to appear on your spreadsheet or on this workbook that we're working on, right? And then the services, you want maybe a service, a rating, maybe to say, okay, rate our service from one to a scale of 1 to 10. How are you rating our service? All those things, right? So I just want to take you through data validation, how to organize, making sure that you validate data that is going in or being punched in your spreadsheet. So let's start with the date part, right? So I have this spreadsheet. Now I have clicked on so you can click, maybe let's say you can highlight up to wherever you want to end so that the validation will apply to all of the highlighted cells. So now I click on data validation feature. We find it under data tab, and then under data tab, look for data tools. So we have used this one, text to columns feature. Check it out on my channel, and then you'll see how to use the text to columns. Now we're focusing on this one, which is the data validation. So let me just click there on data validation. So you see the dialog box for data validation. So the first one, it says validation criteria. So we want to validate our data based on a criteria to say, okay, only allow a certain specific data within the cells that we've highlighted. So now you can see it says allow. So it says under allow, it says any value, meaning that anyone can punch in any data there on that highlighted cell, on those highlighted cells, and then Excel will accept that. But now we want to validate data based on a criteria. So when I say allow and then choose date down here, you can see you can allow based on a whole number, allow decimal number, allow based on a list, and then date, time, and text length, things like that. And then you can also do a custom. But for now, we just want to validate using the date, right? So down here, data, we have your between, not between, equal to. Let's say you want data only equal to whatever you want to type in there. But for us, we want data between a certain date to a certain date, right? So you can see here says start date. We can type in the start date there, and then the end date there. So for me, I usually prefer typing in my date, maybe somewhere here or somewhere on the next spreadsheet or anywhere so that I can refer to it. So let's say now my financial year start from the year. Let's start from, let's say maybe 12. Let's say January 2020, right, to 12. Just an example, January 2021. Right? So let me go back and highlight the data that I want there. Highlight the cells that I want, and then click there on data validation. So we said by date, and then start date. Start date, I can click that. That's my start date, right? Or you can type in the date inside there, right? You can type in the data inside there, and then also there, or you can click the cell selector, and then allows you to select the cell. Takes you back, click the cell selector, select your cell, takes you back there. Or I might as well do it this way. So I just want to show you all the options that we have. We said 12 January, but the problem with this, like sometimes it rejects it if you don't type the date proper. It rejects the date, so that's why I prefer typing the date outside and then just highlighting or referencing the cell that the date is in. All right, so we're done with this, the settings part. So now what we're saying is validation criteria allowing only dates on these highlighted cells. Only date is accepted there. And then data, so we're saying between, right? So whatever the dates that people are punching in must be the date within, between these, right? Between 12th January 2020 to 12th January 2021. If they type in anything outside that, Excel is supposed to reject that. Based, okay, input message, let me just say FY financial year on only date for financial financial year. So on this part, input message is the message that is going to appear once they click on these cells. I've seen people, what they do usually, they will do data validation on cells, right? And then they don't put a message as to what exactly do you want other people that you're sharing what exactly do you want your colleagues to type in there. So they won't know if there's no message. So for me, like if they type in the wrong data, there will be a message there that tells them, okay, sorry, only the data for this financial year. So this message appears even before they punch in any data, right? So it's like a guide to say, tell them, okay, on these cells, on these highlighted cells, or on this part, only the date for previous financial year, only date for previous, let's say previous financial year, right? And then there is the information and then error. So now here we have error message that appears when the person taps in the wrong data, the wrong input, right? So you see, some if they tap in the wrong input, we have stop. It doesn't allow them to punch in data outside what we specified, right? If it doesn't match our criteria, then stop won't allow them to type in that data. Like they will type in the data, but Excel won't accept that information. Warning is just a warning. It will just like it's a warning. It wants to restrict them from typing the data, so they can go ahead and type in the data. And then we have the information. It's just like an information saying, hey, this is what you need to do, but I'm not going to stop you. So for now, on this part, we are very specific, and then this is important to us. So we want to stop this anyone who's typing anything, any date outside what we specified, right? And then the title, so error alert, they also need to have a message about the error alert to say, okay, why are you stopping us from typing punching in the data that we want? So error message, we're gonna say again the same message, only dates of the previous financial year, right? And then let me say okay. So here's what I was talking about. Anyone who clicks on this cell, you see that message, the input message says, so it's just like a reminder, tells them, okay, what are we looking for? For FY, which is financial year, only date for previous financial year, right? So they will know, and then they will type in the correct data there. So let me do this. Let me quickly type in, let's say 12th January. Let me say 12th January 2020. Let's see, allows that. Down here, let me type in, let me say 12 January 2019. Okay, it was supposed to reject that. Let me check again. Let's say the 12 January 2019. So you see, so that means I have to work on the second cell, but on the first cell is really it's working. Says only dates of the previous financial year. So because the date that we typed in there it's outside what we specified, right? So now they will note, okay, I only need to type in the dates within the financial year. Since we're working together, working for the same organization, they know our financial year starts from when to when, right? And then they will punch in the correct data there. So now it's just that we need to work on this one. This one is not restricting anyone. As you can see, it takes January, 12 January 2019. But if I try to type in 12 January 2019, there it rejects that, right? So let me just close that. Let me do this. Let me try to highlight it there, and then let me say It's fine. Let me just undo that. Right, so now let's look at the second one, right? We'll fix that one. And then the part for the salesperson, right? Let's say now we know that our organization is only 7 salespeople within the organization, right? We have only maybe 7. And then we want a drop down arrow here so that the people can choose from, right? So anyone who's punching in information here can choose from that list. So I'll prefer to create a table here for our salespeople. Let me say sales, right? Maybe we have John, we have Matt, we have, let's say we have Melusi, James. Okay, let's type in James, right? So let me make this a table so that we can choose from. Let me just say, let me just do this. Let me highlight that, make a table, and say, make that a table. All right. I forgot something. So highlight that and then go to insert. I forgot this part. My table is headers. Okay, there it is. And then now on this part, let's go through data validation again. Click on data, but now I want to validate differently. Data validation. So we're starting with, let's say, settings. What value? Let's say it's a list now instead of a date. Right. So a list. Where's the source? So there's my source there. You can see I've highlighted my source there. And then input message. Say sales personnel. Input message. Say choose from drop down arrow. Right, and then error alert stop will do. Title. Say sales personnel. And error message. Choose from provided list. Right, and then we say, let's see, say okay. So you see what it does. It's supposed to create a drop down arrow there, and then we have our sales personnel down here, right? So we can choose from them, right? So we can choose all the sales personnel from that part. And then the service now we want to do data validation differently now. Let's see, say data validation. Okay, before I move, let's say now your company grows and then you hire someone else. Let's say now we have let's say we have Grace within the organization. Grace is now added to the list, and then you'll see here once I drop down, Grace must appear. See, Grace is already there. So that's why we have a table. So it's best to have a table this side so that if there's any editing that we need to do, let's say maybe John leaves the company. John has left the company. Let me just check there. See, John is no longer there on the list, right? So I can just take that Grace and then add Grace maybe at the top there. Grace, and then delete that. So you can, that's the important part with the list, right? You can play around with that and then add all the salesperson there. And then on the service part, what I need to do now is data validation, but let's see what are we allowing. Let's say one number, let's say minimum 1, maximum 10, right? Is rating. I want these guys to rate our service, right? Rate our service, right? Say from a scale of 1 to 10, how's our service? How's our service? 10 being awesome and 1 poor. just type in a message that the user will see. At least, like, if there's a message, the user knows, okay, what type of data do you want them to punch in there. If there's no message, they will be just like keep on trying to type in, punching in data, and then the system rejects it because they don't really know what's happening. I once received a spreadsheet that is like data validation, and then we tried punching in data, the system keep on kicking us out until we had to remove the data validation because like there was no message telling us what exactly they want us to type in there. And then say error alert, say wait, and then say from scale 1 to 10, right? And then say okay. So you can see the message is already there. The minute they click there, the message is there. From a scale of 1 to 10, how's our service? 10 being awesome and 1 poor. So if they type in 20, see, from scale of, system says from scale of 1 to 10. So they'll note, okay, now 20 is outside 10. Let me try to punch in maybe a 10, right? And see, the system accepts that. So client name, again, on the client name, you might, let's say you need to, let me go through data validation, and then let's say settings, client settings, how do I want? Let's say maybe like you just want to say any value is allowed there. Okay, let's say maybe text, decimal, whole number. What else do I need? Do I need to say custom formula? No, I don't have a formula. Let me say any value, but the important part is the input message, right? I want to rely on the input message because sometimes you don't want to restrict anyone, but you want the input message, right, to appear there. So title, client name. So just say be consistent, right? Be consistent. And then I say please be consistent with client names. So maybe let's say there is a format that you follow when it comes to client names, and then someone else they don't follow that format. Let's say maybe you type the entire name of the client, or someone else comes in type in the same client underneath somewhere here at the bottom here, and then they don't type in the entire name of the client. So now when we're using other tools, other Excel tools, VLOOKUP or other tools to look up for your data, you find that okay, they don't pick up those clients as if like it's the same client just because the way you're naming the clients, you're not consistent. So now we're just typing here. We don't want to restrict anyone. We just want to let our colleagues to know that okay, this is the format that we want. Please be consistent with client names, things like that, right? But we are not stopping anyone from doing anything, right? Any value is allowed, because sometimes you find that maybe your client, if I say text, you find that maybe your client is text and then numbers. So I need all that information. So I don't want to say only list. I don't want to say only decimal. But and again, if the list, you find that sometimes we receive new clients, and then maybe that new client is not on my database. So I don't want to use the list. So I want to rely on the input message, and then on the error alert, I'm not stopping anyone. I just want, it's a warning or information. Be consistent, say be consistent, only consistent with client names. Maybe you want to give them an example, e.g. G4, let's say G4S, keep it that way, instead of like maybe say general for systems, right? They just keep the name as it is, right? Like just giving them an example how we want that data to be typed in there, and I say okay, right? So you can see I can type in maybe G4S there, right? Any information I can type in, let's say Cisco, right? But the important thing is the information is there, please be consistent with the client names. So that is data validation in short. I hope this has been informative. Thank you for watching.